Rain pounded against the windows, the wind howling like a restless beast outside. In the small, dimly lit house, Ethan moved quietly, making sure his daughter Lily was safe and warm. She clung to her blanket, wide-eyed at the sound of the storm, and he gave her a gentle smile, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We're safe, sweetheart," he whispered, tucking her in tightly before kissing her forehead. The power flickered, shadows dancing briefly across the walls, and Ethan felt that familiar protective instinct surge through him. He had weathered storms before, both the kind outside and the ones life had thrown his way since becoming a single dad. But tonight, something felt different. As he moved to check the windows, a flash of lightning illuminated the street beyond. Through the sheets of rain, he noticed a car pulled over, hazard lights blinking weakly. The figure inside was barely visible, but even from a distance, he could sense distress. His mind raced for a moment. Should he stay inside where it was safe for Lily, or venture out into the chaos? Another gust of wind rattled the house, and he made his decision. Pulling on his coat, he glanced back toward Lily's room, knowing she was fast asleep, trusting him. The storm might have been fierce, but Ethan's resolve was stronger. Someone out there needed help, and he couldn't ignore it. With one last deep breath, he stepped into the rain, not knowing this choice would change everything. Ethan's boots splashed through deep puddles as the rain soaked him within seconds. The cold cut through his coat, but he kept moving toward the stranded car, shielding his eyes from the wind-driven drops. As he approached, the faint glow of the hazard lights reflected off the drenched pavement. A woman struggled outside the vehicle, fighting with a bent umbrella that kept flipping inside out. Her hair was plastered to her face, and her hands trembled from the chill. When she looked up, relief and exhaustion flashed across her expression. "I'm Ethan," he called over the roar of the storm. "You okay?" She shook her head, shouting back, "My car died, phone's out of battery." Her voice wavered, not from fear, but from sheer frustration. She hesitated for a moment before adding, "I'm Claire. I'm the new CEO at Willow Elementary." Ethan recognized the name instantly. It was Lily's school. That small connection made his decision easier. "Come on, my house is just up the road," he said, offering his hand. Claire hesitated only a second before gripping it, grateful for the steady anchor in the storm. Together, they pushed against the wind, each step feeling like a small victory. By the time they reached the warm glow of Ethan's porch light, both were drenched and shivering. As he ushered her inside, Ethan couldn't have guessed that this simple act of sheltering a stranger would ripple far beyond this stormy night. Inside the small living room, the storm's roar softened to a muffled hum against the walls. Ethan handed Claire a thick towel and motioned toward the couch, the warm glow from a single lamp casting a gentle light across the space. Lily, still half asleep, peeked out from her bedroom, curiosity written all over her little face. "This is Lily," Ethan said softly, and Claire managed a tired smile, offering a small wave. Lily shyly waved back before disappearing again. Ethan disappeared into the kitchen and returned with 2 steaming mugs of tea. Claire wrapped her hands around hers, letting the heat seep into her cold fingers. For a moment, neither spoke, they simply listened to the rain tapping against the roof. Eventually, Claire began to open up, almost without realizing it. She spoke of the pressures of her new position, the endless meetings, the weight of raising her son alone. Her voice softened as she admitted she often felt she was holding everything together by a thin thread. Ethan listened quietly, nodding. He didn't share all his own struggles, but Claire saw it, how gently he moved, how naturally he tended to Lily, how much love and responsibility he carried without complaint. The silence between them wasn't awkward, it was understanding. In that cozy room, 2 single parents, each fighting their own battles, recognized something familiar in the other, strength born from necessity, and kindness that hadn't yet been worn down by life's storms. Something unspoken had begun to take root. When dawn broke, the storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean under a pale golden light. Claire stood by the window, looking out at the glistening street. The air was still damp and cool, carrying the faint smell of rain. Ethan emerged from the kitchen with a plate of toast, insisting she eat something before heading out. Her car had been towed early that morning, and a taxi was on its way. As she gathered her things, Claire reached into her bag and pulled out her wallet. "Please, let me pay you for last night, for the tea, for the trouble," she began. Ethan shook his head firmly but with a smile. "Kindness isn't a transaction," he said. "You needed a safe place. That's all that matters." Something in his tone caught her off guard. In her world, favors often came with strings attached, but here was a man asking for nothing in return. She could only nod, swallowing the lump in her throat. They exchanged a few more words before she stepped out into the soft morning light. The taxi pulled away, and Ethan thought it might be the last time he'd see her. Weeks passed quietly, until one afternoon, Ethan got a call from Lily's school. Her tuition for the entire year had been paid in full. No name, just a small card in the envelope, because kindness deserves to grow. Ethan knew instantly who it was. The storm had ended, but its impact was still changing lives. Months later, spring painted the town in fresh greens and soft blossoms. The school courtyard buzzed with laughter as children darted between games and parents chatted in clusters. Ethan stood near the playground, watching Lily race across the grass, her laughter carrying on the warm breeze. He felt a familiar presence before he saw her. Turning, he spotted Claire standing a few steps away, her son by her side. She wore a simple smile, the kind that carried both gratitude and quiet pride. For a moment, neither of them spoke, just a shared acknowledgement of the road that had led them here. Claire's son ran off to join Lily, their voices blending into the happy noise of the afternoon. She stepped closer to Ethan. "She's grown," Claire said softly, watching Lily spin in circles with her boy. Ethan chuckled. Kids have a way of making time feel fast and slow at the same time. There was no mention of tuition, no formal thanks, just the kind of unspoken connection that didn't need words. The storm months ago had brought them together by chance, but what remained was a quiet bond built on understanding and kindness. As the sun dipped lower, Claire glanced at Ethan, her expression warm. In a world often too busy to notice simple acts of compassion, they both knew what had happened that night mattered. It was proof that even a brief moment of humanity could ripple outward, touching lives in ways neither could have predicted.